The Secret of Safe Passage, Book 1 in the Taking Wonderland trilogy by Martin Baynton. Chapter 1, Newton Unbound, read by the author. Yes, but something must be outside the bubble, got to be. If the universe is expanding like a bubble, it must be expanding into somewhere. The boy was sitting 2 rows across from Annie. He had a chin like pink nougat and was getting all worked up. He seemed genuinely interested in the debate, and stupid. Dickhead, sighed Annie. It was painful listening to feeble-minded crap from the other students, all locked in their Newtonian straitjackets. She turned her attention back to her forearm, where she was inking a fake tattoo with a blue pen. The face of a cat, grinning. There is no somewhere for the universe to expand into. The teacher had started to pace in front of his desk. Look, I know this is hard to picture. That's why we need maths to describe it. The universe isn't expanding into anything because the universe is everything. There's nothing outside of it, so there's nothing for it to expand into. So it's just making it up as it goes along, is it? Nougat chin again. Not really. The teacher smiled as he tried to find the right words. Ali liked him, Mr. Kepler. The poor fart meant well, and he was still enthusiastic. He still liked to teach, not like the rest of the staff sleepwalking to their retirement. But if it's an expanding bubble, sir, then it must have an edge, must have a border, said the second boy, no smarter than Nougat chin. And if there's a border, there must be something outside that border. Ali shook her pen, almost empty. The cat needed one last eyebrow. She would draw it arched, amused disbelief. How about your border, newbie? The whispered challenge came from behind her. Ali didn't turn. She knew it was the flathead with biceps for brains, the one who called himself Beef. He'd been poking her in the back for a few minutes now, the courtship of a preschooler in a sandpit. Cross your border any time, just text me. Ali disengaged, letting the voices fade to a background buzz like summer insects. The teacher at her last school had shown how to do it, a way to keep calm and stop anger from grabbing hold. She could focus on her breathing and withdraw into silence, letting the world drift along without her. Through the window, she watched a rabbit nibbling a fringe of lawn by the tennis courts. It was a good school, so she would try to make it work, try to keep her anger at bay, try to give her dad a break. He deserved it. Alice, Mr. Kepler's voice pulled her back. Sir, help me out here. Any suggestions? Ali looked down at her tattoo. Why had she doodled a cat? She didn't even like cats. Schrodinger's cat, maybe? Her subconscious having an emergent moment? Like you said, Mr. Kepler, you can't explain it with words, just with maths. But try. Okay. The big mistake is to picture space without thinking about time. And, Mr. Kepler smiled encouragement, well, no one has a problem picturing tomorrow as an empty space, do they? That's because tomorrow hasn't happened. So there's nothing there, right? Right, said Nougat chin, nodding slowly as if pretending to understand. Go on, Alice, said Mr. Kepler. Well, the universe isn't an expanding bubble of space. It's an expanding bubble of space and time. So there's nothing beyond the edge. There can't be, because it hasn't happened yet. Out beyond the expanding edge of the universe, it's always tomorrow. Excellent. The teacher beamed at Ali. Thank you. Faces turned to look at her. The new girl they'd been warned about, the one with the temper. Another jab in her back. I like brains, Beef whispered behind her. Legs and brains, real turn on. Can I steal the explanation for future classes? Said Mr. Kepler. Use it and take credit for it. Knock yourself out, said Ali. Just don't ask me to explain string theory any time soon. Beef grabbed the moment to make a play for centre stage. Sir, I have a string theory. I think newbie girl here can tuck my strings any time she likes. He got his applause and stood to take a bow. Ali stood as well, heating like a kettle towards the tipping point of her anger. Mr. Kepler, sir? Yes, Alice. Permission to teach the dipshit behind me one of Newton's laws? She turned and explained to Beef how a moving object keeps moving until it meets an opposing force. It was more a demonstration, really, one moving fist coming to a stop when it met the opposing force of one grinning face. The face stopped grinning and started to bleed. Excellent. Did you understand that okay? Said Ali. Suspended again. Ali sat in the principal's office, cursing her temper and life in general. Her last counsellor had called it life rage, rage in search of a new target because the old one was out of reach. She could kick and scream all she liked. Her mother's ghost wouldn't hear. I have no choice, the principal was saying. Your teacher explained the provocation. She glanced at Mr. Kepler, who was sitting beside Ali. However, that young man's behaviour does not excuse violence. I have no wriggle room here, Ali. You see, not for a charge of assault. Suspension is mandatory. The woman seemed genuinely sympathetic. She even smiled when the school nurse came in and confirmed that the victim's nose was indeed broken. We've sent your father countless phone and text messages asking him to join us here, but apparently, she frowned at a scribbled note, he is working in a lead box some miles under Wales. How is that even possible? Ali's father is on the UK Hertz team, explained Mr. Kepler, a new facility at the bottom of a coal mine under Cardiff. In a lead box? The principal seemed to find this rather peculiar. Don't even go there, said Ali. I'm sorry. Go where? There's nothing weird about Dad's work. I never said there was, Alice. You were joining dots. Weird work and weird parenting. And it's not a lead box, it's a Faraday cage. He's measuring cosmic radiation. It's weak, so you have to screen out everything else. Equipment has to be shielded, like inside a Faraday cage, named after the bloke who first built one way back. Good to know. The principal looked down at her notes. And presumably that explains why your father isn't getting our calls. Bingo, Ali sighed. The father was going to be pissed off. She promised she'd make it work this time. 3 schools in 4 years. Letting him down was all the punishment she needed. Ali reached up to a silver pendant hanging around her neck, a nervous gesture she did in moments of stress. The pendant had belonged to her mother. It was a St. Christopher inscribed with the boy's name, Jack. Her dad wouldn't tell her who Jack was. Maybe he didn't know. A boy from her childhood, an old flame. Look, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I'll apologise to that dipshit. Good, but not today. Today you leave the college grounds. He was assaulting me. Verbally, yes, but you punched him. But before all this, he was stabbing his stupid finger in my back. And that's not just assault, that's inappropriate contact. Ali glowered at the woman. So I stand up for myself and hit some bully because I don't let people shit on me, and you side with him. That's great girl power right there, go figure. You're not helping, Alice. You want me to roll over? Not going to happen. I want to press charges assault, so call the police. They were called, Alice, by his parents. He's the one doing all the bleeding, remember? The principal sat back in her chair. You'll be given a complaints form, Alice, and I encourage you to make whatever complaints you see fit. The boy is a spoiled brat with spoiled parents to match, but in the meantime, you must leave the premises and undertake your suspension back with your family. Bit tough that, right? And he stared at the thick file on the desk. It was all in there. The story of what had happened to her mother had made headlines. How she had died on a UNESCO mission, negotiating the release of child hostages. Thanks, Mum.